Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 3,472 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Another banger week, and I can't thank you guys enough. We are a stone's throw away from 3,500 subs. I can't believe we just hit 2,000 subs at the beginning of this year, and now we're on pace to possibly double that in less than a year. Unreal. I can't thank you guys enough. I had an interesting comment last video about why do I collect Xbox 360, and it's something I'd like to address, you know, here at the beginning of the videos before we get into the 10 games, just so you know. So I had a kind of a falling out with the Xbox 360 generation. I know we call it, I think it's the 7th generation. I've never liked those monikers. I call it either the 360 generation, GameCube, etc. But anyways, the 7th generations. The Wii, I did not like. The PS3 was too expensive. Blu-ray wasn't all that hip, so there wasn't that big of a reason to kind of justify it. We just bought DVDs. And so after I got out of World of Warcraft in 2008, I got a 360 because Halo Bro and because Gears of War was incredible. And so that was a very fun time in gaming for myself. And as we've gotten further away from 2010, it just seems like there hasn't been much innovation. A game that came out in 2012, you can confuse it for a game that came out in 2024. And so now that a lot of games have so much bloat or ridiculous character designs or just monetize up the wazoo, I find it's pretty enjoyable, especially because I collect everything. So I've been collecting forever. I have all my games from when I was a child. I have tons of NES, Super NES, GameCube, N64, PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you name it. I collect for most of those systems. Not stuff like Saturn, very rarely on the Turbo, but you know, the main, once again, the systems I grew up with, yes. And so the 360, once I realized that there was a lot of fun titles that I missed out on that play as if it was a modern game and it looks pretty damn good on an HD TV, that's what really made me jump into the library and apparently made a bunch of other people jump at the same time. And there you go. So that's why I collect for it. That's why I've really gotten heavily invested in this. Even after the FOMO's over, I don't care. I don't chase trends. I chase what I'm currently interested in. And I'm glad that you guys seem to be interested in it too and are coming along for the ride. So anyways, that's enough of my preamble. Let's take a look for the 21st time at 10 more Xbox 360 games. That sounds good to you? Let's check it out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
So like last time, I did say that we were going to revisit some of the earlier games I spoke of. So of these 10, a few of them I have talked about before, but I got some interesting things to say about them. But of the ones I have not talked about, we got some absolute bangers, heavy hitters, and I'm going to start off with one that I did not think I'd get. I missed out on snatching it for $35 back in May. Luckily, the pricing on it has come down significantly so that I was able to get one for $60, and that is Tornado Outbreak. Now, I'm not the hugest fan of Katamari Damacy, but more or less, if you're familiar with that series, that's what this plays like. You're a little tornado dude. Now, it's very kind of Looney Tunes cutesy. There's an overarching story about these tornado people that can't be in the sunlight, need to be under clouds. Like, you know, they got to put a story in it. Sometimes I can live without the story, but there's a story. But more or less the way it plays is that you're a tornado and you go around causing destruction. So unlike Katamari, where you build and grab everything and then it eventually gets bigger and bigger by the more you collect, this has almost the exact same function, but you don't really feel like you're collecting things as much as you're destroying them. And then after you destroy enough material, then your tornado levels up, and you can see on a bar on the upper left-hand side how close you are to leveling up. And that's more or less the entire gist of the game. But then they add some extra layers too, where you have these sunlight creatures that are your enemies of the, like I said, the little cloud nimbus. I think they're called nimbus or nimbi, whatever. So the little sunlight creatures, then you have to, utilize them, and you can absorb them and get bonus points. You can extend your timer if you're on a time limit. There are things that only create cloud coverage for a little bit of time, so you have to use the fire guys to power it up. And if you go into the sunlight, it automatically destroys your character. And one interesting thing to note about it is that when you start the game, the controls are inverted. So you can look around up and down normally, but the right stick and the left stick, just like what happened in Afro's Samurai, are inverted to when you move left, you look right. So it's counterintuitive. So you can switch that, but when you switch it in the control menu, it looks like you're then inverting it to fix it when you're really not. So just one thing to bear in mind. I don't know if because it's on PS3 and it's also on the Wii. The PS3 copy is a little bit pricey too. The Wii copy is dirt cheap, but always as it comes with this generation. Games that are on all three, the Wii one's usually the lesser of the three, except for in rare instances. But overall, is it worth the $100 price tag it was at? Not at all. I'm not even sure if it's worth the $60 price tag. Though I will say the controls in this game are light years ahead of the controls in Katamari Damacy. You literally just move around. So I found it a lot easier to control. But outside of that, Katamari does everything better, even though its story is so over-the-top ridiculous. But I'm glad to have Tornado Outbreak in the collection. That was one of the ones that I really wanted, and I'm surprised there is as much story as there is in it. And I enjoyed it. It's a fun game. Now, here is one that was actually donated to the channel by a tremendous person. Jeff, thank you so much. And because you did donate it, I always try to give you your money's worth. So this is a game I actually went through and I completed it this week. And that is Fear. The first Fear, which is called First Encounter Assault Recon. Now, if you remember, I covered Fear 2 a few weeks ago, and I said that it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Now, I didn't know at the time it was made by Monolith, which are the same people that went on to make the Shadows of Mordor games, which I do enjoy. But reading up about it, seeing in the comments, a lot of people had said that Fear 1 is better than Fear 2, better than Fear 3, and it's hard to play the other ones after the first one. So that obviously intrigued me. Now, popping it in, it does not play like Fear 2. So Fear 2 plays a lot like a Call of Duty clone. You can aim down sights using the left trigger. You're going through and you have a squad of people, but it felt like Aliens as far as the fear was not all that visceral. And it seemed like you had waypoints, you would go from here to there. I think you still had a health system. It's been a while, I played a lot of games, so I don't remember exactly, but it felt very much a game of its time. Now, when I popped in Fear 1, initially I was a little taken aback. There no longer was a down sights mode. Everything seemed a little different. There was the time slowed down. The enemies, the whole level design, everything is more obfuscated, and you as the player have to figure out what you're doing. And initially, it really didn't even take me any time to warm up to it. I loved it. I loved everything about this game. Yes, in my opinion, it is a far superior game to Fear 2, because this is one of the games, I think it came out in 2005 or 2006, and I find that, much like when I played Max Payne earlier this year, these games really respected the player's intelligence, and the UI is not constantly telling you where to go and what is interactable. And I really miss this iteration of gaming. So what makes this game so intriguing is, yeah, there are a lot of office buildings you're going through and having to figure out what to do. But you have to rely on your mind. And this is the closest thing I would think to like a Doom type game, Quake type game, because it has that sensibility where you're going through and you're searching through the level, or like in GoldenEye, where you have the access of the level. Sometimes doors are shut and this is that, but you aren't constantly just moving from one end to the next. So you will find yourself backtracking, needing to look around, finding grates that can help allow you to traverse, finding secret buttons to hit, elevator buttons. Like, it's really, as much as it seems counterintuitive that you would get lost in this type of game, I blew through it in 2.5 days, and I loved every second of it. And what makes this exploration so intriguing is, yeah, there is some light fear elements in it. You have this creepy little girl walking around, but it really is the thing. I found out the developers wanted you to feel like an action hero in a horror movie, and that's kind of how it feels. You never really feel completely terrified as you do in, say, a survival horror game, because you can rock out and destruct stuff, and it is so satisfying. You have these enemies that come at you, and you have guns, machine guns. You can dual wield machine guns. You can slow down time, and then this allows you to take out everything. The health kits, which, by the way, one of the things that a lot of modern games do is that as you take damage, either the screen turns red or it turns black and white, or something happens that's alerting you that you can only take so much damage until you die, and then if you hide, you can then recover. That's not how this game plays. This game, you have a health system, and you can just drop immediately. But you can counter that with holding up to 10 health kits at once. So you can go in there guns blazing, healing yourself like crazy. You don't have to have your view obfuscated. You can go into slow motion time, blowing things up. You randomly will have a shotgun blast or a gun blast into an enemy and just ultimately blow them to, like, jib the hell out of them, which is incredible. And the whole game, even though there's a story, I play the game without really listening to the story. I gathered as much as what it was about towards the end of it, and I figured out how this and that, and it's actually a really cool storyline. And yes, I'm pretty sure the little girl from the first game is also the same girl I saw in the second game. But overall, just a phenomenal gaming experience, and one that we don't have anymore. We do not trust players to figure it out. It's not good for business. It's not what people want. It's not what people have been trained on. And when I go back, and like I said at the beginning of this video, this is why when I go back and I play these things, I felt like I was playing a game that was designed for my hardcore gamer self, that really didn't hold your hands, respected your time. You can beat the game in about 8 hours, and I loved it so much. The combat was always fun. You always felt like such a genius when you figured out how to progress the level. And really, it was one of those things where it was contained enough that if you could backtrack backwards and forwards, and then you came across enemies, you could then figure out where to go. Like, it would path you, they have a thing called yellow paint, where they tell you where to go, but if you're cognizant enough to recognize patterns throughout the levels, then you'll realize when, oh, that door's open now, or though that one's open. And it reminded me a lot of a 3D version of a game I covered this year called Crusader No Remorse on the PS1. There's also a Saturn version and a PC version. And that game is so much fun, and this game was just as much fun. There's even a gun where you can get it. It's like an electric gun from Eraser. You shoot it, and it will instantly skeleton a bad guy. So cool. Really love this game. Jeff, I cannot thank you enough. I loved every second of this, and I hope your donation to the channel with this shout out and this me talking about how much I loved it was worth it, because thank you. I really enjoyed the game, and it really means the world that you would be willing to send that. So thank you again. So now that I talked about Fear, the first one, I was finally able to go and pop in a game I picked up on Father's Day, which was the standalone Fear Files, which is just DLC for the first game, but it's a standalone. And it's 2 separate campaigns. It plays exactly the same. You get some new weapons, but more or less it is just more Fear 1. And for me, that is a good thing, especially as much as I loved the first game. Now, I'm not saying the second game is bad, but I prefer the first game for what it is more than this. Like I said, the second game just felt like a Call of Duty clone, which isn't bad. It plays well. Those games are popular for a reason. But man, going and exploring and feeling so satisfied getting through these levels was next level. And yeah, there are some jump scares here and there, and the story is great. But yeah, Fear Files, more of the same. Definitely recommend picking that one up too, especially because I don't think you can buy the DLC anymore for the system. Well, yeah, you definitely can. But yes, Fear Files, excellent game. All right, now here's one that I talked about before. And speaking of Max Payne, a lot of people say it plays like Max Payne, and that is the game Wet. Now, this was getting up there a lot. Luckily, it has come down to earth. I think I saw someone in the comments get one for like $31 the other week, which is good. When I picked it up in, I want to say March, I think I got it around $30, so it's good that it's kind of come back down to earth. But the game Wet I guess it's a play on the expression wet work, which wet work is a phrase you use for people who kind of get down and dirty into, like hitman type stuff, or, you get wet because there's blood. That's the name wet work. I think the name wet work would have been a better title than wet, just because obviously you know what you're doing when you have this on the cover, but I digress. But as far as the game goes, I was very impressed with it, but also I was a little let down with it. So in my opinion, it does not necessarily play like Max Payne. The way this game works is a lot more like a game called Stranglehold, where every time you jump and you start firing, it goes into slow motion. If you slide on your knees like you can in Vanquish and you start firing, it goes in slow motion. Essentially, if you're in the middle of some acrobatics and you start firing, which there is no reloading in this game, so that's a brilliant idea. You can just fire endlessly. When you're in slow motion time, you not only fire one gun, but you fire your second gun. And you're just traversing in these crazy action hero type moments. It's got a star-studded cast, I believe, doing the voiceovers. I think Elijah Dushku is the main character. But it, as much as it was enjoyable, I found it much less so than I was in Stranglehold, because in Stranglehold it was so fun seeing like the sheer lunacy of all the things falling apart. In this game, because it's so much more polished, it does seem a lot more jarring when you're just standing around and you're like, okay, let's jump. Okay, let's jump to get into this, because otherwise you're shooting with one hand and it's not doing very much damage. All that being said, it is a really fun game, and now that the price has come down, I can wholeheartedly say pick this one up. It is very good, but in my opinion, it is not Max Payne. So it's definitely, it has moments like Max Payne, but Max Payne, you trigger the time slowdown, and this one you don't. And I know that sounds like a really minuscule difference, but trust me, when you're in there and you're trying to kill one last enemy and you look like you're flopping around like a fish to try and get into that bullet time mode, it can be a little annoying. And not that it takes away from the game, but that's something I want you to be aware of, because I haven't heard anyone say that. And so I would say, if you know when I talked about Stranglehold, which I really liked Stranglehold, Wet plays like that. Now it is over the top too. The first level, you're shooting through Chinatown, and then in the second level, you're chasing someone on the freeway to go over the Golden Gate Bridge, which I gotta tell you, I don't know if it's because so many game companies are located in the Bay Area, but the San Francisco Bay Area gets some crazy stuff happening during the 360 generation. Fracture, it's getting destroyed by earthquakes. Alcatraz is a fort. Vanquish, it's getting hit by a GoldenEye type satellite. I was in another game too, and then obviously here in Wet, you're causing craziness on the 101 freeway going up to the Golden Gate Bridge. Though I gotta tell you, I live in the Bay Area, and that's definitely not how the freeway works. But hey, I'll suspend disbelief, and it was fun. But yeah, fun game. Check it out. All right, now here's one that I had been looking for, and I'm almost embarrassed to talk about it, because putting it in and playing it, whoa, yeah, you thought the last game was suggestive, but Rumble Rose XX. This is a wrestling game, but not really, not why you're buying this one. It is just eye candy galore. They know exactly what they're doing with this game. The angles, even the way the moves are showed off, the different characters. There's no storyline. I guess the first game on PS2 had a story mode. This one does not. So I can't really tell you how to, like, I played it, but I didn't know the controls all that well. I looked into it some more in the manual. But it is a pretty sufficient wrestling game, which is cool, because I really haven't found any wrestling games since the N64 era that I really love. I hear the SmackDown versus Raw games, or SmackDown Breaking Out the Paint. I hear those are good, but I haven't really given them a shot. But this one, oh man, if you're playing this, and which this is still, I mean, it got up around at $70, $100. Now it's around $40, which is around what I got it at. I just had to try it. I had to check it out for the wrestling, of course, for science reasons. But I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, it's an all-female wrestling game where they all are basically a different caricature and you can dress them up. So yeah, the wrestling's fun, but yeah, you know what you're getting if you buy that. So because I played that, I wanted to take a look at another game that unfortunately, actually this was kind of a wrestling game. So on the GameCube era, I loved these games, and then I heard the third one came out and wasn't very good, and that was Def Jam Icon. I talked about this in the first video I did, but after playing Rumble Rose XX, I wanted to see, okay, how does Def Jam Icon play? And it does not play well, man. It does not. I do not, for the life of me, know why they went away from the Aki engine. Basically, it played like No Mercy, but with hip-hop stars. A really cool storyline. Now, there's a cool storyline in this one, too. You sign with some agent. He gets gunned down at the beginning of the game, and they send you back to the beginning, and you're basically fighting. This one's more of a street brawler. The wrestling aspect and the grappling aspect is a lot more minimal. As well as, it seems like you have to fight in tune with the rhythm or the songs, or sometimes on the corners. I played in one stage somehow every time I did it, and what would happen is throughout the level, if you threw them into either the left or the right speakers, then for the rest of the level it would randomly burst out a giant sound blast and hurt you. And I guess it would play the theme song of whoever was playing. I don't know. I really don't understand it. The controls made no sense. You could do some moves with the buttons, but then the right stick could do moves, but then you could grapple with the right stick. But once you grappled, it was hard to know how to, it was very unintuitive. Not good. I got this game for like $20, but there is a reason why this one has not popped off like Vendetta, like Fight for New York, because it is just not fun to play. Like, if you had taken the Rumble Rose XX fighting engine and put it in Def Jam Icon, this game would have been iconic, and we probably would still be talking about Def Jam games to this day. But I appreciate they tried something unique, but boy did they fail. Like, they missed the mark huge with this one. So that one, unfortunately, is one that I'm going to tell you, I don't know. I wouldn't pick it up. I'm also not the biggest hip-hop fan. I know some of the songs, but I was just really disappointed that it did not, much as I suspected, did not live up to the legacy of the other games. All right, now here's one that I picked up in one of the lots that I got when I got, I think, Import Tuner, and this was in it, and I'm like, okay, well, I've always wanted to check this out. I've never really heard much about it. And that is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. So I think this came out late in like 2014. It's on Xbox One and PS4 and all those. If you know Plants vs. Zombies, it was a mobile game that took the world by storm, got console ports. It's a tower defense game, super fun. They have it on the 360. I recommended getting it because it's a lot of fun. It comes with Peggle. But this game was sort of an arena shooter where you could play as either the plants or the zombies. And I had no idea it's an only online game. And you know what? It's an only online game where you need an Xbox Live subscription to even use it. So I popped it in. I don't have an Xbox Live subscription. I haven't for quite some time. And I couldn't play it. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even play solo. There's a solo mode, and I couldn't play it. And man, what a harbinger of things to come with some of these newer games coming out nowadays, which really, really sucks. I know I picked up a copy of Concord as a trophy, but this one's basically just as useless. I mean, I think the servers on this are still up, so if I did pay for a month of Xbox Live, I think I could play this. But I'm not about to pay for a month of Xbox Live to play this game. I've heard it's decent. And I think the second game, you don't have to be online to play it, if I remember from the articles I read. But just kind of crazy. Kind of crazy that we have games on the 360 even that you can't even touch unless you have an Xbox Live account. That's unreal. You'd think there'd be some sort of offline mode, but what do you expect? That was vintage Electronic Arts from the mid-2010s. Not that they're any better now. All right, got a few left here. So this is one. It's kind of in the news right now because the sequel just came out and it's allegedly really good. I haven't picked it up yet. I've been interested in it because I hear it's like a Xbox 360 game released in 2024. But the one that was released on Xbox and PS3, Space Marine 40K, Warhammer 40K. I'm not saying 20K this time. I know. I'm a horrible person. I don't know anything about Warhammer. But I popped it in this time to really try and see what it was like. And yeah, you're a big chunky space marine, and you can either fight with your gun or you can fight with melee. And the cool thing about the melee is that when you melee enemies, you get health back. So there's a lot of that risk reward, and they definitely stole this system for Doom 2016. They did other stuff with it, but the primary reason. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't know anything about the universe, but I did enjoy playing it. And I played about the first couple of missions, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know anything about the lore, but when I originally saw the ad for Space Marine 2 back, I think it was 2018 when it came out, I thought it looked generic. I didn't really think, I mean, not that it was generic, but it just didn't seem like it was for me. And it's funny how 6 years removed, now it seems like the exact thing that is for me. And I really like this one, and I'm going to be looking to pick up that game, Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade. Like, there's been a few games that have come out this year. Currently, right now, I've only played Unicorn Overlord, which I loved, and I'm currently playing Legend of Zelda, The Wisdom of Echoes, I think, which is phenomenal. As someone who loves top-down Zelda games, they nailed it with this game. That's not what this one's about. Maybe we'll make a video about it, but man, if you're on the fence about that, now I'm a Nintendo fanboy, what do you expect? But I'm loving it. All right, and then the last of the games that I tried for the first time this week is a game that Jen bought me way back when, at the same time when she got me Mario Party 8. Just randomly when we went to a GameStop when we first started dating, because yeah, my wife is incredible, always has been, and unfortunately this game is not, and that is Halo 4. I have not tried Halo 4 till now, can you believe that? And 343, man, how the hell do they keep getting to make Halo games? I feel like me, I don't know. When I played Halo 5 a few years ago, I thought it was okay. I thought the multiplayer was okay. But playing Halo 4 for the first time, it starts off and you're seeing a dialogue between an old woman and some guy, and they're talking about Master Chief being washed up or this or that or having what? Put me in the game, Chief. Let me play as Master Chief. What is this? And then you wake up and you're in stasis. Now, I can't really remember the end of Halo 3. I don't know where they're coming from. Cortana wakes you up. And then everything feels a little off. And funnily enough, it has been long enough before when I played a Halo game, I forgot they don't have a down sights view. That is a Call of Duty thing. So in Halo, you're just looking around and your reticle is where you're shooting. So it's been a while, guys. What can I say? But it just didn't feel right. I don't know what it was. The battle rifle didn't feel right. The gunplay, even like using the melee button, you have the ability to sprint now. It seemed like a weird hybridization of Halo with a kind of a modernish take. I didn't like it, especially because I loved Reach so much. I'm so glad I didn't play this one. This is still a dirt cheap game. Am I recommending picking it up? Probably not. But like I said, I'm checking out what's in my collection now, guys. I've run out of games. You can't tell. 4 out of the 10 this week I've already talked about. But I just did not like this. And then the piece de resistance of why I can't stand 343 is they changed the sword sound effect. So the sword was the energy sword was my favorite weapon. One of the things that really sold me on Halo 2 and finally made me put down the N64 controller and stop beating the drum of GoldenEye being better than Halo was the energy sword, because it made such a cool hissing badass sound. When you heard that, you knew death was coming your way. And they changed it to be some generic, scuffed lightsaber sound that just sucks so much, and I don't know what they were thinking. And that's kind of how all of Halo 4 feels. I put it down. I stopped. I just couldn't keep forcing myself to play it, and I think most people didn't, and that's why no one really finally remembers it. All right, last game we're going to talk about this week is one that I've really wanted to put some time into, but unfortunately I covered it the first or second video and I didn't play it, and that was Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom. And this is a game that I remember getting a big spread in Game Informer back in the day, and just thinking that it looked a little, okay, that seems all right. Not for me, I'll pass on it. And it seems like that's what happened to everyone. Bear in mind, I was a heavy Call of Duty bro, Halo Reach bro, Skyrim, like you name the generic 22-year-old, 24-year-old, that's what I was playing. But this game is exceptionally cool. The way it works is you play as kind of a Prince of Persia, Aladdin type character who's breaking into a temple, and then in there you find this big creature that has been locked away by these shadow creatures, and these shadow creatures have taken over the kingdom. You unlock him, and then you with him work in tandem. Now he is AI controlled, but he's also a giant tank. So basically you have this big ogre creature walking behind you, and before you had him on your team you could not kill the shadow creatures, but now you can, because he has infused his power into your weapon, and now it's up to you to traverse through the world, find him his power back, and then use his command him to go and stand so you can jump on top of him, use his abilities, like he has elemental abilities like the ability to blow the wind so you can blow stuff out of the way. And there's also a light stealth element in it too, where you can sneak up on the shadow enemies and then one-shot them, which is so satisfying, but they don't die permanently unless the Majin is around to swallow their soul. Now, even though there's stealth, it's very light stealth. So if you trigger an enemy, much like Metal Gear Solid, they'll go from blue to yellow to red, when red's when they see you. But if you just walk away, like not even that far away, just walk away behind a corner, they'll go to yellow and then they'll eventually give up. So it's not one of those things where you're beating your head against a wall. It's pretty forgiving with that. But all in all, very fun exploration. Another fun game where you have a dual system in it, but it's still just a single player game. And it's funny how many of these games came out like this. You know, this game came out, Knight's Contract came out, you had Enslaved, Journey to the West, and they all failed. And it's funny that, yeah, I know we hate escort quests. Resident Evil 4 with Leon and then Ashley, I think, that kind of was the first thing that brought us up to that, and then Resident Evil did that with Resident Evil 5. But they can be fun. They can be fun, especially when they use them in unique ways like this game does. So I know it was around $20-ish when I got it. I think it's creeping up there because it is a very quality game. I know the other YouTuber From the Void always says how much he loves this game, and I cannot agree more. It is really, really good. I'd like to put some more time into it, and I highly, highly recommend picking that one up because it's very fun. It's on PS3 as well. All right. Okay, there is another 10 games for you guys to check out. I hope you liked today's video. Just once again, thank you all so much. If we get to 3,500 by next week, I'll thank you then too. But man, it is so nice just every week seeing the numbers tick up, seeing you guys come back. My retention for these Xbox videos have been nuts. I know I'm getting like 60 or 70% of you guys coming back, which is insane. On the other videos, nowhere near that. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you for staying. Make sure to like the videos, share the videos, subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. Any sort of comments, even the mean ones, just be nice to each other. You could be mean to me. Be nice to each other, all right? Thank you again to Jeff for the copy of Fear. Once again, I really, really enjoyed that game. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. And as a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.
Mm-hmm.